Okay, I think we're going.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fourth installment of the Truckers News Celebrity Series. My name is Randy Grider, and I'll be your host tonight. I am the editor of Truckers News, and it is with great pleasure to introduce our guest tonight for our Celebrity Series, Sean Casey. Sean is a professional tornado chaser and IMAX filmmaker who was a star of the Discovery Channel series Storm Chasers and creator of the IMAX film Tornado Alley. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment and thank our great sponsor, Chevron Dello, for making this series possible. And a reminder to our audience, thank you for participating with us tonight, and make sure you click the play button on the right side of the Celebrity Series page to participate in the live chat. When you ask questions, give us your first name and city so that we can give you a shout out. Sean, welcome.
Yeah, well, thank you.
Now, kind of give us just a little background. You're located on the West Coast, and I think you said in Sonoma. Is that correct?
Yeah, I actually grew up in Los Angeles, and we just moved up to the Bay Area, kind of North Bay Area, January 12th. So got out of LA and now kind of living a more rural life.
Okay. Now, I've read somewhere that I think your dad was into the IMAX filmmaking before you. Is that correct?
Yeah, yeah.
And
I,
so then you got into IMAX filmmaking, and can you give us a little
little history.
resume of what you'd done before you got into
Yeah,
the latest?
yeah. My father, he was an IMAX filmmaker, and so, at an early age, he would take the entire family. On location if he was going to be gone for a while. So, even at an early age, 11, 12, I was kind of hanging out in really cool places, kind of seeing, what the operation was in making these IMAX films. Even though I was 11 or 12, I still had a job. It was usually to guard the cases that the film equipment would come in.
Right.
And then as I got older, I mean, that kind of imprinted upon me is that's what you do in life. You take this large IMAX camera, you go to interesting places and film cool stuff. So as I got older, I started doing different jobs. We did an IMAX film called Ring of Fire. Uh, and I had graduated from instead of guarding the cases to carrying the cases. And then when I was about 20, 21, we did an IMAX film on great white sharks. And I was the safety diver and sound man for that shoot. Then we did an IMAX film on Africa, the wildlife there. And at that time, I became a cameraman. So I was kind of in charge of filming, the hard to get shots, the kill shots. So they would leave me somewhere for a while with food, and I would film, say, the lions taking down the zebras or the crocodiles, predating on wildebeest. And then we did an IMAX film on Alaska, and then we did a film on animals that migrate, and then we did a film called Forces of Nature. And Forces of Nature covered three subjects: earthquakes, volcanoes, and then tornadoes. And during that production, I just fell completely head over heels in love with chasing the weather. So when that film was done, I wanted to do an IMAX film just on tornadoes. And then, of course, if you're going to spend all that energy and time in the field, why not build a platform, a vehicle that you could film from and really get exceptional footage in a very exceptional format, the IMAX format.
Right. Now, once you got your interest in this was going to be kind of your project. You really want to do tornadoes, and how long of a project till it came to fruition with Tornado Alley? Was this a year project or was?
No, no, it took 8 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 8 years. Yeah. I thought it would, when I started building the first TIV, I thought this whole project would take maybe 4 years tops.
Hmm.
But that wasn't the case. It's difficult on two levels, really, two main levels, with getting that shot of a tornado coming directly at you and impacting you. That's the shot that I wanted. One, it's very hard to get to that perfect place and have that perfect tornado, one that's not too weak and one that's not too strong, coming directly at you. And then secondly, it was kind of getting used to that idea. psychologically to get used to the idea of getting hit by a tornado. So for a number of years, we were getting extremely close, and we were going into smaller ones, just to make sure the vehicle was holding up, and everything did well. So then we started bumping up how the strength of the tornadoes as far as what we would encounter.
Now, let me clarify something. This was with your first tornado intercept vehicle.
Hmm.
Did you build the first one?
I did. Yeah, that's where I
You
learned
started
how
out in a minivan, I
to.
understand, right? When you first kind of got into chasing storms, or
Well, when we were first chasing, yeah, we would rent minivans.
that couldn't feel too safe.
No, no, and you're already kind of mentally at a disadvantage when you find yourself in a dangerous situation and you're in a minivan. Um, so yeah, the first vehicle was actually I didn't have any funds to do this film. No one wants to get what they think is a suicide mission any money. So this was all out of pocket. So I bought a used Ford 450. It had 114,000 miles on it. Um, and like I said, I had to learn how to weld and fabricate to build, the first TIV. And of course, the first year it was out, it was ugly. I mean, this vehicle it was a cross between, one of those vehicles in a 1970s sci-fi movie, where they're crossing the desert filled with
Right.
zombies, and like some bad beer commercial. It was that ugly vehicle. We got pulled over 17 times the first year by local law enforcement. It was
That,
that
that
it
was
was
pretty
that
hard to
ugly.
explain what you were doing, I guess.
Yeah, it was the first year the TIV was out, and they had no idea what was going on, and it was curiosity stops. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
And then when you went to your second vehicle, I guess it was more sophisticated. You built on things that the other one was lacking, and it was truly built probably more from the ground up than even the first one, right?
Yeah, well, the second one, we took a Dodge 3500, and tore it down to the engine and the chassis, um, and then built back up again. But it had a lot more thought going into the design. The original TIV was a two-wheel drive vehicle, and it had a static shell, so the frame was just the static kind of, as close to a hemisphere as I could get. And if it's a static shell, you don't want winds getting underneath the vehicle.
Right.
So our clearance was about, I would say, 8 inches off the ground. So going down those dirt roads, we were getting stuck, and we were getting, in the ditch a lot. And so the idea was to have a second vehicle that was, four-wheel drive, and actually change its shape so we could have a high clearance going down the road, and then with hydraulics we could lower these panels that would block wind from getting underneath the vehicle.
Now, can you kind of give me just a little bit of? I've seen the vehicle, and I still say it's impressive, but it kind of looks a little bit like a Mad Max vehicle to me with all the steel. Can you kind of give me some specs, weight,
Yeah,
what kind of engine you had in it?
yeah, no, it was a Dodge 3500. It had the newer 6.7 Cummins in it. Um, um, when we added all the stuff to the vehicle, it weighed in at 15,000 pounds. And a lot of that weight is the weight that we added to the walling around where the people are. It's actually 2 inches thick of 9 different layers of stuff. Um, so that's where most of the weight is. I mean, there's no weight around the engine compartment or those flaps that go down to block the winds. I mean, that's just aluminum. Just aluminum paneling.
Right.
But the real weight is around where the people are, because you don't want that 2x4 or that telephone pole to impact your vehicle and get through.
Now, and I know your goal during filming Tornado Alley was to actually drive into a tornado. So, of what classification of a tornado, F0 through F5, did you feel comfortable that vehicle would stay on the ground?
Well, you got varying degrees of comfort, right? I mean, you might see an EF1 or 2, and a normal car you'd probably survive in. When you get into that EF3 category, when you're getting in the 140 mile per hour winds, then of course normal vehicles are being lifted. And our vehicle has withstood up to about 150, 155 mile per hour winds, um, and it did fine. And I think of course we could probably take winds of up to 200 miles an hour. It's just when you reach those wind speeds, you get really nervous about what that tornado is picking up and what's downstream from you. So if you see, the grain silos like this last year, we were approaching a tornado, and then all of a sudden the three grain silos in front of us just went up in the air, and then all of a sudden that was material that was, the sheeting I'm sure is fine, but I know they have some type of structure, and so when you see that, or you see large parts of trees, being torn out of the ground, you kind of back off because even though we have armor, we have inch-and-a-half thick polycarb windows. You get a tree trunk that's moving at 150 miles per hour. I mean, that would probably go through our stuff.
Right. Now, just back to the vehicle real quickly. What kind of creature comforts did you build into it? You guys who obviously are going to spend hours, maybe even days at some points, right?
I kind of overlooked that whole part. We've got cup holders now. We have rolls of duct tape that you use as cup holders.
I guess that was needed going over these bumpy areas. I guess you'll probably got a lot of stuff spilled on you over the years.
Well, we don't have AC, we don't have a radio in there. There's not a lot of comforts, we tried to maximize the room that we have with all our gear. So the AC unit for that vehicle was quite large. I mean, it seemed like it was about almost 3 feet long by 10 by 8. So, it was just trying to make as much room as possible in there.
And a couple of other little things. What's your maximum speed?
Oh, the TIV moves. I mean, that's 6.7 Cummins. We're zipping down the road doing normal speeds, and we weigh 15,000 pounds. So, on a closed track, we could probably do 100, 110.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I guess, did you have any problems getting this thing, since you built it yourself, did you have a problem getting it registered for highway use, tagged out, or was that?
Well, Department of Transportation, they're pretty liberal as far as, what goes down our highways. So, of course, the vehicle had to be, less than 102 inches wide. The rear, the headlights have to be a certain height. The taillights, the emission is pretty much stock. It's stock emission. But I did make the mistake of going into the Department of Motor Vehicles in California, because they were wondering why I hadn't registered the vehicle. I'd been working on this vehicle, but I hadn't registered it, and so I brought in a picture of what I built, and that was the big mistake. And the clerk there said, "There's no way I'm going to register this vehicle. You're going to have to take it to the California Highway Patrol." And so I made an appointment. Went there. I was a bit nervous. And then two officers come out, and they look at the paperwork. And then they jump in the TIV, and they were gone for about 20 minutes. And they came back and they gave me I guess it's a special purpose built vehicle classification.
Right. So now you're street legal and
Hmm.
always ready to go. Now, do you encounter a lot of truck drivers when you're out there, or shutting down in truck stops sometimes?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. In fact, one year we decided we were going to run with a CB,
Hmm.
just to, you spend so many hours on the road, like truckers do. You're trying to find ways to entertain yourself. When we're averaging about 400 or 500 miles a day out there, and some days you're driving 800, 900 miles in a day. So we brought a CB. Um, and that's how we actually got the nickname for our vehicle that actually travels with us. We have a second vehicle that's kind of it's been altered. It was a pickup truck that got altered, another Dodge 2500, and one of the truckers said it looked like a doghouse, and so that became the nickname for our secondary vehicle, Doghouse.
Oh wow. Now, one of our viewers tonight, and that's Bill from Tulsa, wants to know: do you ever get scared chasing storms? Has there been some intense moments that you were like, "This is pretty scary"?
Oh yeah, man. I don't like the lightning part of it all. When you're getting those cloud to ground lightning strikes and they're so close, you're actually feeling that kind of concussion wave coming off of them. I mean, I hate lightning. I hate that. And then, of course, yeah, when that tornado's coming at you, it's not like you get used to, you know, even though it's a rush and it's a thrill. I mean, I'm having second thoughts. You're definitely having second thoughts about what you're doing. But then again, you got four guys in an armored vehicle, and you do things you normally wouldn't do. Um, but yeah, I've got two young kids, and of course, that's always in the back of my mind out there. Really being aware of the situation, make sure whatever we mess with, you know, uh, doesn't mess with us.
Right. Gabe wants to know what's the most intense tornado that you guys have ever intercepted.
We've been close to some EF5 tornadoes. We didn't go into them. When you see them just tearing at the earth and trees are being torn out of the ground, you just don't want to go into those. We filmed them. They're in the IMAX film. But the strongest tornado that we've actually taken a direct hit from was an EF3 tornado. So about 150 mile per hour max wind speeds.
What was that like?
Ooh! Well,
And I know you're manning this big heavy and stuff, so I
yeah,
guess
there are a lot of things going on, right? Of course, you've got that. You're trying to pick that spot on the road, and you're looking at that tornado coming at you, and you're trying to see if it's jogging left or right, or you have to make a change in course to on that road to get hit by it. And so there's a lot of yelling going on in the vehicle. Um, and then, of course, I'm kind of fixated on my camera. This IMAX camera weighs 92 pounds, and the film goes through it. 1,000-foot load of film goes through it in about 2 minutes and 50 seconds. So, I'm really wary of, what the footage count is and making sure I've got the right exposure and the camera's level and all this stuff. So it kind of takes your mind off the fact that a tornado's coming at you when you're having to do a job, like film it. But of course, it's hard not to ignore the fact that, you're all of a sudden getting slammed by 150 mile per hour winds and the whole vehicle is shuddering, and it's like being sandblasted. You're being sandblasted and you're hearing larger little pieces of debris pinging off the vehicle. And my turret that I filmed through has this design issue where it's got a little play, and so it's usually when you get winds like that, it's kind of like smashing up and down rhythmically. And of course, when I film, I actually film through a hatch that opens up with a hydraulic piston on top. And so I have a little port that I'm filming through, and of course, all that stuff is coming in through the turret when I'm filming the tornado.
wow, that sounds pretty intense. As you know, truck drivers have to have a special driver's license, a commercial driver's license. And Theo has asked, do you have to have any special license because of the weight and size of your TIV?
No, not weight and size. We're okay with that. No, we don't have to have a CDL. Also, being a special purpose built vehicle, um, we haven't gotten that. Though I have thumbed through the California's CDL pamphlet. It seems like it would be kind of a. I'm not good with forms, and it seems like there's a lot of forms you have to do, and then you have to get a medical, and then you gotta, a lot of stuff.
Right. Now, Brandon from Georgia, I'm assuming he was probably watched Storm Chasers, and you were on that series for 4, 5 seasons. Is that right?
Yeah, I think it was 5 seasons. Yeah.
And you were using part of this for your, I guess your at the time to work on your IMAX movie. Was that?
Yeah, well, the Discovery crew that was following us in our mission, which
Okay.
one
This
was,
was part of the story that you were doing this.
yeah.
Well, Brandon's question is, why did the series get canceled? It just kind of run its course, or?
I think I mean, it's the basic thing of the viewership had leveled off. The viewership wasn't increasing with the last 2 seasons, and then it's an expensive reality series to produce. So it was just basic figures, and then you've got shows like Gold Rush that are coming on, of course, that are very popular on Discovery, and so we got the boot.
Did you enjoy doing it, or was it you got the cameras around you?
Oh no, it was fine. I mean, you don't pay much attention to the cameras, and the cameramen know that when it's go time, when things get exciting, that they don't interfere.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Sean Tom of Strongsville, Ohio, wants to know: did you ever have suicidal tendencies growing up? I think he's asking you if you always been a kind of an adrenaline junkie.
No, no, no. I just like to, I like to do challenging things, and usually there's a risk involved. in getting challenging things done, things that maybe haven't done before. So it's not really about wanting to take risk. It's about doing things that really interest me. And for me, if I'm going to do an IMAX film on any subject, I'm going to try and get the best footage I can. And so for tornadoes, I mean, you know, you don't want to be 2, 3 miles away and filming with a telephoto lens. I mean, it doesn't. I mean, the IMAX format is so amazing, and the resolution is such that you want to take that audience right there in the path or right next to these tornadoes. Um, and if you're going to do that, you want a little protection. Yeah.
Right. As I said, I talked to you before. We're located in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of that major outbreak across the southeast.
Mm.
And I know you were near this, or you were in this area at that time. Can you tell us a little bit about that particular outbreak last year? Why it was such a deadly year, and how it differs chasing storms in the southeast with the mountains and the trees as opposed to the plains?
Yeah, we really prefer, of course, to chase from the I-35 and west. There are some spots, east of there that are okay, like eastern Arkansas, southern Illinois. You get agriculture out there, and then you can see the tornado coming. It's a whole different ball game when you're chasing, say, down in Mississippi and Alabama, um, where you've got these pine trees, 50, 60 foot wall of vegetation on each side of the road, and so it was a nightmare for us chasing because you had fast moving storms. I think on average they were going about 60, 65 miles an hour. And you couldn't see what was underneath that storm when that storm was coming at you. We're looking at radar via the internet. We see, this radar display of a aggressive storm with a hook, and then possibly a little donut hole in that hook indicating a tornado, and that's coming right at you. But you don't see that tornado coming. You don't know if it's something you want to go into or you just want to get the heck out of there. So it was a real challenge of a day. You kind of felt like you were a rat in a maze. Not being able to see anything that's happening. Um, and of course, the parameters that day. I mean, every supercell that went up, um, you had such incredible wind fields that they were able to maintain their integrity, even though you had a lot of storms close to each other. And so every supercell that went up seemed to put down a tornado that day.
And you got as far east as I think you said Mississippi, and then did y'all guys help render aid at some point during that, or?
Yeah, no, we got on a storm that had just gone through a town or near a town called I think it was Enterprise, Mississippi. Um, and that storm would later go through Tuscaloosa, but there was no way we could keep up. And in fact, the road that we tried to keep up with, I mean, it was just littered with trees. There's no way to get through. And so at that point, there's no way we could catch the storm. So, we started following the tornado's path and checking the houses that had gotten hit to see if people were okay.
Okay. Brandon again from Georgia wants to know if you've got any tips for any amateur storm chasers.
How to become how to become a storm chaser. I mean, they have those storm spotting classes, of course, and so if you go to a storm spotting class in your area, you're learning stuff, and then you're meeting people in that area, and then from there, doing storm spotting from a locale that you're familiar with the terrain and whatnot is a good way to start. And then if you want to go, into tornado
Do
alley.
you encounter a lot of amateur storm chasers out there when you're?
It's a whole spectrum out there. I mean, yeah, you have people that aren't storm chasers, right? They just live in the area and it's a weekend, and they're off from home from work, and they're just they're jumping in their pickup truck and going on an adventure. You get that out there, and you get people that have been storm chasing for 30, 40 years. So you get the whole spectrum out there.
Okay. We've got Corey from Tupelo, Mississippi wants to know, have you made money doing this? I know you put out the film. It came out last year. I think it was released 2011. Has it been successful for you?
Well, the film, I think it's now in the black. So I haven't The film was released about a year ago, and so it's you spend a lot of money on the film, so I'm hoping to see something in the future, but nothing as of yet. Yeah, no.
Now, since that ended, you're still storm chasing. It sounds like. What are your future plans? Are you still gonna? Is tornado still your passion, or you thought about, hey, I'm gonna ride out a hurricane, or
Yeah,
what's
the
Sean thinking
hurricanes.
of doing now?
There's some subjects that interest me, but I want to do a sequel to this IMAX film. There was such a huge learning curve in making this film, and that it'd be a shame to really quit now, because it's only been the last 2, 3 years that I feel that we've really, kind of hit our stride. And the stuff that we got this last year, I mean, we got some incredible footage this last year. And so I want to do a sequel, and I want to do a sequel that's based around the TIV um, joining a science team, so that there's just one team in this story, and it's to get data of tornadoes in a way that hasn't been gotten before. So that's kind of my idea for doing the sequel.
So it'll have a very scientific element to it.
Yes, exactly. In Tornado Alley, the IMAX film I did, you had a science team, Vortex 2, funded by National Science Foundation, and then you had our team, the TIV that you were following in the film. And these IMAX films are pretty short. They're about 45 minutes long. So for the sequel, I want to combine the two so that you have one team. And you've got two TIV vehicles. You get a new TIV 3 vehicle. It's an off-roading platform, and then you mount radar on TIV 2, and you really try and get as close as you can to these tornadoes to get data.
Were you pretty happy with overall with your effort? You said it took 7 or 8 years, and I noticed you got Bill Paxton to be the narrator for it. Did the Twister movie, great voice. Were you pretty satisfied when it came
Oh
out?
yeah, no, I was very happy with how the film turned out. I mean, there's so many beautiful weather shots. I mean, I was out there for 8 years, and it's not only these really amazing tornado shots, but shots of baseball-sized hail, pummeling down, and the lightning and the storm structures themselves. Just all the beauty that exists out there. Um, I think we got some very moving footage for hopefully a moving film. Yeah.
Well, as far as people that maybe have not seen it, is there any way to view it, or is it you're just gonna have to find an IMAX theater
Yeah,
to go
it's
play?
right now it's just on IMAX screens. Yeah, so usually in larger cities, um, they'll have an IMAX theater.
Now I'm sure they can go and download the trailer and kind of get a sense of what it was like and what the film's about. That's available, I
Yeah,
assume,
yeah, the
right?
trailer is online. If you looked up Tornado Alley movie, IMAX film, you'd find the trailer. It's available.
Right now, just this is pretty much tornado season. Used to be a spring type thing. Is it keeping you busy 2 times a year, or throughout the year? Kind of give us. Do you think the weather patterns have changed? What are you seeing? And
Well, you're seeing that, of course, the Gulf has warmed up. So they say it's 2 degrees warmer on average now. And so when you have a warmer body of water just to the south, I mean, that's the moisture that's being evaporated off of that body of water is being fed in the United States. So you're getting more moisture available throughout the year. Um, However, that doesn't strictly translate into more tornadoes, because when you have a warming of a planet, that jet stream starts to slow down. So you're seeing less shear but more moisture. Um, but that said, I mean, if you used last year as an indicator, then you'd have to say, yeah, things are getting worse. But that's just one year. You'd have to see that happen um, repetitively to really make a conclusion that, yeah, we're going to have more tornadoes now. But of course, now you're going to have more stronger tornadoes throughout the year. So where you didn't have enough moisture, now you do. And so maybe in the Februarys and the Marches, you would have more tornadoes.
okay, Sean, for the people who are fans of you from the Discovery Channel show Storm Chasers, or have seen the show, do you have a fan page they can write to you? Facebook page?
Yeah,
People.
I have a Twitter account at Sean Casey IMAX, and then yeah, on Facebook there's a Sean Casey page that we kind of update now and again.
Well, I'm sure you live a life that some of our readers of our magazines would envy. It sounds very exciting, and um, I'm sure they'd like to know more. So, maybe we'll help you gain some Facebook fans on that, and
Yeah.
that would be
Well,
that'd be really good. Sean, we're about out of time, and I want to thank you for talking to us
yeah, of
tonight,
course.
and
Yeah, certainly.
thank our audience for sending us in the questions. And we'd also like to take one more moment to thank our sponsor, Chevron Dello, for making this series possible. We'd like to invite all of you back on May the 15th when we'll be interviewing country star Aaron Tippin. Sean, again, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. Good night, everyone.
All right. Bye-bye.